Hello, everybody. What I'm doing now is that I'm putting out some announcements. So hang in there and let me know what you want to talk about. One second here. Okie doke. Hey, Killer. Benjamin. Hey, David. I'll be right with you guys. Hang on a sec, okay? I got to put out a few announcements here. Okay, now, what do you guys want to talk about today? Put down anything you want. I'll be right there. Well, don't just sit there. Come on with something while I'm getting these announcements out. You got to want to have something to talk about. Hi, Lee. What's up? And we're not talking about Japanese maples, Lee, except in their use in watches. Okay. Rolex. I don't. Well, it'd be nice. I've I've been working on. Yeah, I've been working on some new finds that I found. I got to talk about that too. Hang on a second. Let me get going here. Hey, Benjamin. Oh, by the way, is the video and the sound okay? Everything working all right? What's your experience like buying vintage watches? I've done okay, but I haven't bought that many, so I'm probably not the one to look at. Sound, everything working all right? Everything's okay. Thanks, Killer. Any new releases caught your eye? Yeah, let me talk about that. Hang on. I gotta finish up my getting some announcements out here. Be right there. Watches the Facebook. Here we go. Okay. I got to get our European friends in this too. Go. And the guys from Oklahoma. Stephen Kadoki is coming to town. Anything you want to ask him? What town are you in, Benjamin? Oh, Singapore. Okay. Here's a question for this is I hope it's a nice question too. When is he going to create a watch and sort of a really base movement and for an entry level, let's say entry level Kadoki watch under for the same price that he did with the Eberhard? Anyhow, take a look at that Eberhard one. I think it's really cool looking, but it doesn't have a Kadoki movement in it. Okie dokie. Hi, Ubo X. Good morning. Okay, now I put up all of the announcements. I'm going to turn this off and try to optimize my bandwidth here. Anyway, let me know if it starts buffering or doing anything weird. Are Carl F. Buchner watches worth buying? That is a good question. The video that I did on that, Lee, is sort of like they are certainly worth looking for because they've been I don't know what's going to happen to them. You know, when Rolex dropped them, they didn't drop them because of quality. They dropped them because all they really wanted in the first place was the stores, I guess, that Butcher was part of that deal that they came from. So that's sort of interesting. Yubo, let's see. Uh, what do you think of the Parmigiani Ionica? Quite frankly, it's a watch I wouldn't mind having at all. I really like the Ionica was sort of the precursor to the Toric. It was really early on, and if you want a watch that you know that the watchmaker, Michel Parmigiani, really had his hands on, that would be one I think to take a look at. So that's what I think of that. Should we ask him if he'll consider doing an iBoach for us? Uh, you know, well, he sort of has done that. The Kadoki one is a pretty simple watch movement, I think. I don't know. You know, he a while ago, a long while ago, right when Larique was getting started, before we even had the name Larique, I had contacted who was it that I contacted? Marco Lang. I contacted Marco. Marco said, "Well, I'm gonna talk to Richard Habring and Stefan Kadoki, see if they're interested." All right, so which was to say that Marco Lang, he's got that wonderful watch that he's making. I guess he's got back orders from here to next year. And so, this wasn't a thing he really wanted to get involved with. But maybe, I don't know, it's like this is one of the things I was looking at this thing that Kadoki did with Eberhard. And I'm wondering, what is the sense of it? I mean, there's a Solita movement in the regulator is the one I was looking at, in that regulator. It's a gorgeous looking watch. I really like the looks of the watch. And the Solita is made specifically for regulator, which means it's got an hour stem, a minute stem, and then a second stem. Sort of lined up like this, rather than all three of them centered or the hour and minute centered with the small seconds. are, they use the term eccentric seconds, which I really like a lot. So that's has to do with Kadoki, but Kadoki did the same thing that Ahsoka did. Is that okay? We're going to sort of give it our blessing and put a put a cheap movement in it and sell it for a lot. And I don't. I'm not against that. Recently, I did a video on, in fact, just yesterday, I think it came out, was a video on Underdog. The thing I like about Underdog, you know what you're paying for, and most of them are under $1,000, but then you have one by Siegel. The one I have by Siegel works wonderfully well. Then you have two by Salida. And on the comments that I got, everybody was fascinated with the one from China. Oh, it's Chinese. It must be terrible. There's the, like I said, the one I've had this Siegel in this regulator that I have. Let's see. Hang on a second. This is not for me, I hope. No, it's just my parole officer. It's not important. I'll put it down. I don't know. Have you talked to the people at Grossman about repurposing? Yes. Now, let me say something about that, Killer. Yeah. Here's what Christine wants to do, if she wants to do anything. She said, I'll say you 20. But she wanted to do the case and everything. In other words, she wanted to say, okay, here's a hematic, here's a whole ball of wax. And the deal I was talking about was 200,000 euros for 20 watches. So that would be about 1,000 a piece. No, 10,000 a piece. Sorry. So she's got like a big maybe about that. So finding 20 people who would want such a watch, 10,000 euro basically for a $60,000 watch, or 40, or whatever they sell for. I think I've already had a number of people say, to include me. But I've got to. That's another thing. I've got all of these other things that are going on too, so I've got to be careful. So keeping all of the ducks in a row on that one. So, Benjamin, that's where that is on that. I mean, Killer. That's where that is. Hi, David. Kadoki's trademark is his hand engraving. I don't see how you can get that level of craftsmanship under 10,000. Oh, Kadoki's stuff he had some stuff a few years ago that was like, I think it was about 6,000 when the very first one that he came out with. So that's for under 10,000. So Kadoki's stuff under 10,000 wasn't too hard. What I'm hoping, okay, here's my hope with Grossman. I hope they simply have some extra ones. These aren't selling, what do we do? Well, these guys, they offer to buy, sort of basically take the stock we're not doing anything with, and we'll put them in a, sort of a plain vanilla WG case and let them have them and be done with it. That's what I'm hoping for. We'll see. Hi, Jeff. Anyone have an opinion about the Journe aluminum movement? I do. I'll give you two right away. I wouldn't have one of those. I'll tell you why. years ago, okay, when this first got started, and this is part of the line sports series that Jorn had. Aluminum movements just, I mean, aluminum it is very light, but it was made originally. The original one was made for a runner who loved FP Journe watches. Apparently, he must have been a fairly well known or somebody with a lot of influence. And so that was what they came out for, were those ones. But then I don't think that they did too much with it. To tell you the truth, and also the other one he had, I think is that big, the gorgeous watches, that yellow, and I think it was yellow and black, and it was a chronograph of some sort. And I picked up one of those things, and it was light as a feather. And I'm not crazy about watches that are too light. So anyway, that's just my opinion, Jeff. And I may be full of beans. So yeah, killer. Fortunately, I say this about the Hamatic. Most people, most watch collectors, one, they probably even know it exists, and two, if they do, they're not like, nah, it's not for me. For whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but that's what the situation is. And so, you know, I keep getting these things and people who want to be in that group. If we can get 20 together on that, and I got to write them down somewhere so I can get people into it. That I got an email from a guy, and hang on, I said I'm going to make a list. I got to see. I may have already started a list. Okay, Damon, you wanted Damon and Killer Audio. Okay. David, I think I got it. Didn't I get something from you a while back, David, about this? And I think I had already had you down somewhere. Fracking goes. Okay. All right. Okay, what I'll do is that I got some names. See, Damon, you wanted one, Benjamin, Killer Audio, and David. Okay, I'll put you on a list, and I'll put you with the other ones that I have so far. Okay, so what else is up? What else is going? Oh yeah, let me say something too. Talking about the Underdog. Okay, I did the video on Studio Underdog, and it just wasn't. People aren't used to my doing something on sort of a watch that doesn't have a Swiss movement or a German movement or a sort of top Japanese movement, something like that. And so I thought the reason that I liked Underdog is that they were doing some interesting stuff. And I think, and they're doing things that a lot more people could afford. And because a lot more people can afford it, doesn't mean it's a bad watch. But and the other thing, like I said, they were just going on and on and on about, there's Chinese movements, they can't be very good, and blah, 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 blah. Well, there were three groups. One of them was Chinese, the other two were Swiss, and the other two were both Sellita. I think one was hand wound, and the other was, in fact, both of them may have been hand wound, which I like very much. But the point is that I think it's very important to realize that you can have the you can have movements that aren't the top Swiss movements or even Swiss at all and still put together a really nice watch. And I think they do it with the design. They do the special things like that sandwich dial that they had. So there are a lot of ways that you can do it, but they're not the same. I mean, they're not the ones I collect, and they're not the ones most of the people that I hang out with online elsewhere collect either. But they're interesting, and I like the way they go about it. The big thing is that after all of that whining and stuff, there should be more whining about the big companies that sort of pass themselves off as everything is in-house. They got like one in-house movement that they use over and over again, but the majority of the ones they sell are Solida or ETA based movements. And they don't want to talk about that very much. And when you look at the reference number on the movements, they appear to be something other than SW for Solida or ETA. So, on the other hand, the guys at Underdog, you get all of the information, and I think that's all I ask for in any watch. And you get a price tag that goes on with the information. I mean, you're talking about what? Two of the three groups were under 1,000. One was under, I think one was 600 and something. The one that was 2,000, they have one for that, and it was sort of a top grade Solida. The other thing is that these guys are working with the movement maker that wanting something more than just a little. Okay, so that's all I really want to say about that. But they're good guys, and I think that the difference between wanting to run out and buy one and having a really clear idea of what they're doing. Okay, that's enough of that. Okay, David, yeah, you did, David. Yeah, that's what I think. Anyway, I put your name back down anyway, just in case. Uh, I'm trying to reconnect. Good. All right, got it back. How's this? Everything working okay now? Still, I don't know what's going on with my internet. Okay, it's back again. Hi, HRM. Yeah. Um, Video and audio are good. I think everybody else went away. Um, yeah, what I was going to say, I was talking about this watch, my Lyrique, and uh, it's been sitting in my case a little too long as I was going through the rotation. So I got it and wound it all the way up. And first of all, the old wouldn't start. So it took a while, but I had to pound it on my hand a few times before I did it. Now, one of the things I think I've learned from this, what is going on when your watch won't start? For the most part, here's what happened. I've got to make sort of a thing on this so everybody can see it. But you have the pallet fork, and one of the rubies in the pallet fork is locked to the escapement. And in order for it to release it, the pallet fork has to go out, and so that it releases the escapement. Okay, and the way that happens is with the swing back and forth of your balance wheel. Now, in order for the balance wheel to happen, the pallet fork has to, when it's released, it pops back and kicks the balance in the opposite direction, and then comes back again and then once it's going, it keeps on going. The more I look at that and think about it, that thing is a real Rube Goldberg contraption. The way the whole thing is set up and everything has to sort of work together. Um, oh man, it was. Hang on a second. My parole officer keeps calling me, and I gotta. There. That's better now. He could just read the ankle bracelet I have to read. The one that Lee lent me. Okay. Anyway, so what I was saying is that I found this to happen in some of my other watches, but also I found it only happens in my good watches. So my solution is when you wind your watch is that you start with something, you start very slowly and then let it start winding or let it start running before you finish up winding the whole thing all the way up. That was what I was doing. And this is on its, I don't know, about third or fourth day, and it's been keeping perfect time. So another thing that happened, I put it on the time grapher, and my time grapher said, this is looking weird. But after I wore it for a couple of days, everything was back perfect again. So it's a funny kind of thing. And I think there was a lesson I learned early on in watch collection, and that is you should wind your watches at least once a week. And the more I had, the bigger the short became. So I decided that after every time I'm finished wearing a watch, I'll wind it to the full amount, and so that even when I'm not wearing it, it's moving the juices around, so to speak. Okay. Okay. All right, David. It's the IRS. Yeah, they're after me again. There's a wimpy CWI for sale on Chrono 24 for €4,500, about 50% of its original price. The caliber CW1 is a unique bespoke movement made by for Wimpy by Nomos. Very interesting piece. Let me take a look at that. That is interesting, HRM. It's called the CW1. Okay, thank you. Let's talk some more about something I started talking about before. And this is like when a really famous watchmaker or a good watchmaker, hey Tim, how you doing, gets together with some brand that uses whatever makes a watch tick, so to speak. And, and I think the one I was looking at, and I looked at it, I really like it, like the looks of it. And and it's got a Salida movement in it, but it looks like something that Stefan Kadoki did. Now, it looks like definitely something that he designed, and he and the guy running Eberhard, I don't know what his name is, their picture there, they're buddies and stuff. And, this is why I was comparing it with Underdog. Because with Underdog, right off the bat, you're not paying a lot of money, and I think that you're getting a very interesting designs on the watches that they have. And so it's not just I'm not picking on Kadoki. In fact, the thing that they did with H. Moser, I thought was strange to put it mildly. But there's sort of the balance, I guess, in marketing. They talk about the sizzle and the steak. The sizzle being what you present, the marketing, the hoopla, the advertising, and everything like that. And some watch collectors, I fear, are more fascinated with the sizzle and the hoopla, and this is why but the hoopla sometimes isn't what it should be, in my opinion, and sometimes it is, but it's sort of like, oh, well, they use a cheap movement, so the heck with them. That would be pretty much me. On the other hand, they're ones that, oh, it's X this brand, so it must be great. Anyway, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. My regular rotation watches, I have it out for 3 days. By the time I get it back, to wearing it, it has been sitting for too long, too long. Yeah, same here. The thing is that at some point, your collection, if you to me, if you do it right or wrong, you come up with a bunch of really good watches. I've got today I have on one, and the good thing about this one and what are the other ones I have? I have a couple more that are 7-day watches, and so I can wind them up, and, I don't have to worry about them at all because they're going or I have a couple I keep in the winder. So, but on the other hand, most of my favorite watches are one, they're hand wound, so that means I should sort of attend to them. And even the automatics, so the automatics do not like to sit around for too long. And so anyway, um, so just get your thoughts on some of these things. Ah, good. That's Brian, that is a good practice, especially the third day. Recent release by J.N. Shapiro surprised, disappointed me a bit. Instead of using his own in-house manufactured movement, he uses a la Joux-Perret. I won't say anything about Shapiro. We'll move on. There's nothing to see here at all. Killer, got to get going. Report to the corporate boss man. Okay, Killer, great to see you. All right. So what else is going on Watchdom? We can talk about anything we want to. Uh-oh. Anybody get in trouble? I have Yeah, the easy divers have they had more than one movement. The one I moved was called I think it was something like the the RD 12 or 19, something like that. They had this real simple name for them, and which I happen to like rather than the ones that Girard-Perregaux go on for a block. I think they said, well, we got to have this and this and this and this and this. If you make a lot of movements, I guess that makes a lot more sense. Some of these, I think the ones by Longo and Sunda also have these long names. Um, um, Not saying anything. We'll see what old Shapiro. When Shapiro was making his first watches, he was able. You could still buy um, a Langenheim, a Langenheim. What was it called? 33.1. Okay, cost about $1,000. Got a 33.1. Elaborate stuff that he did with. He does really good guilloche. The hand that he has is sort of his signature hand is okay, I guess. But it was he I think he got away with charging something like 60,000 bucks for it. So, I don't know, and so the in-house movement, I would look at that really closely, but that's me. I'm a cynic. Okay, so let's sort of go on, okay? Moving right along. Okay, Alpha watches with the Frederick, Constant manufacturer. Oh, Alpina watches, yeah. Alpina's got a really, really interesting history to it, that they were not part of Frederick Constant. I think somehow somebody bought the name Alpina and they did some stuff with it, and the whole thing's owned by Citizen. Okay, tell me, what's going on with that, Alpina? Um You know, Frederick Constant has always been a pretty good deal. They started off making their own movements, and the only thing that always got me about Frederick Constant was simply that they used, gold plating instead of instead of actual gold cases, and that maybe I was being a little petty there, but that was what it was. Other than a Larique, are there any other watches you anticipate? Don't worry, I won't tell him. Oh, good. Okay, I can tell you then, Brian. Yeah, this year, right now, I've got 3 watches on the come, sort of, as they say in craps. Uh, one of them is the Forever watch, the E2 number 2. I can hardly wait to get it. Uh, the second one, is the Air Zulu. If it comes out, it's from what I understand, everything is going along nicely with that watch. Where's a piece of wood? Knock on wood. Um, and then there's another one. So I'm all booked up for my watches this year. How about yourself, Brian? You got anything else on you're thinking about? Oh my God, Lee, the movement was the video was from 7 years ago. That's what I'm finding. I can believe it. I think next year it'll be 10 years since I started this Watch Art Sci. 10 years? My God. I was just a kid when I started. What's up, Mark? They use solid gold logos. Okay, well, the logo was as far as they went on that. Oh, the third one, yeah. We'll see. It's coming along. It may be a fourth one too. I'll have to. It depends what Catherine Huddard says, because I will look into that. Um, who would want one? Well, turns out that it's really funny. I don't think, from what she told me, this is a couple of years ago. I said, hey, Larique loves movements and stuff. We'd like to put one together, and how about it? She says, give me 2 years. It's been 2 years, so I've got to contact her. I got another thing going that I started with Jean-Marc Viderec, and that is something that I'd really like to do too. And I'll have to see how that goes. So that's what I've been doing. Now I've done my share of stuff. How about you guys? What else are you getting? How about you, Tim? Where do you go? Tim, come back here. I want to report. And Mark, did you ever make up your mind? I know you were thinking about getting another watch. Brian, you got all of there are no more left for you, Brian. That's it. You reach your limit. Will Eric ever build an automatic watch? The Hamatic still a plan. I don't know. We don't know what we're going to do right now. What we have is that we have 4 watches. One, everybody who started this one now has it. About maybe a little right around a half of the people with the second one are E2 number 2, the one with the Guilloche dial. About half of them have that one. Then we have Arizulu, which is our third one. That one I'm really very, very excited about, and that one's coming along. The fourth one is they're just starting. The certain parts have been ordered. What we did, we found out that there were certain parts that were on both the Arizulu as well as on the Air Sultan that are that would be used. So we're able to save some money that way by doubling the orders rather than getting 100 of everything. We got 200, and so we got a price break on that. The see what else. So that's going to be a jumping hour, and from what I've seen, the way both Agenor and the guys who are in the Air Sultan group, they're going to make a really, really interesting watch. Hey, 911, you got a JLC limited edition enamel dial. Oh, good grief. You got the duometry. Oh my goodness. That's almost like, sort of FP Journe, Kari Vuitton, that level, Philippe Dufour, Agenor. That is a really special watch, 911. That is a super watch. Agenor should totally build an automatic 3-hander movement someday. Similar to how they did an automatic system on the Agencraft. I'm not sure. Did they do the automatic on the Agencraft, or did Precision Engineering or one of the other ones? I'm not sure about that. All I know is that that's the only chronograph I'm really interested in. I found another chronograph that I'm going to talk about on Friday. I had no idea about, but then I found it, and I think that's sort of a cool one. Okay, the duometry, they're coming down. That's a neat watch. That is really a first-class deal. As a matter of fact, I think I'll put that down on my notes. I've been looking for watches to include for Friday, and I found the ones I found I really like. So, and people say, "Well, how come you're not getting them?" Simple. I'm already loaded up, and I can't. I've got to save enough money to buy what I have coming. Duometry. Okay. Something, HRM, about the, I suppose it's this way. I'm not sure why I'm not crazy about automatics, even though some of my favorite watches are automatics, like my Roger Dubuis La Monégasque. But I'm just not into automatics. My Van Cleef and Arpels is an automatic, dual time, dual jumping hours, wonderful watch. the Roger Dubuis, my wonderful Chaumet Dandy is automatic. Um, my I think my Parmigiani 1950 Loon is automatic. I got a and then my Fabergé Alexi's automatic. So I have automatics, but it's sort of the difference. I've always liked for years. I drove a stick shift, not because automatics weren't available. We used to, the cars like the Flintstones. No, there were. I had in 1983, I think, I bought a brand new Mercedes 240 diesel. It was the most expensive car I had ever had. I'd had a book that had been very successful, and so I went down and treated myself to a Mercedes 240D, and I wanted the stick shifts. I had that thing. I had a stick shift on that one, and I had that thing for 16 years, and then I got some more cars, and they were all automatic. So I was I feel the same way about hand wound versus automatics. I like the hand wound. You can feel it. I don't know. I don't know. This is hand wound, and it's a 7-day. It's a weekly winder. It has that hebdomadary movement underneath it all, which is this is I think one of the best movements that Michel Parmigiani ever made, and I've always wanted one, but I wanted the Ovale, and I didn't pay enough attention to the movement for a change, but I knew if it was by Parmigiani, it was one of his movements. But I like the telescopic hands and the way they worked with the oval shape. And so that took a lot of attention away from the usual thing about the movement that I have. So turns out that it's hand wound. It lasts for a week. Weekly winders I really like. Same with my Beauvais. It's the 1930 is wind that thing up for a week. But that's the problem when you got so many watches and you want to rotate them. You can't say, well, I'm going to put this one on for a week. It doesn't seem right. There was, I guess I should. The last watch I had, I sent to have service. It cost me about $1,000. It was on my Kalpa, and I don't know if that was the very last one, but anyway, they got it back, and it worked just beautifully. And then something happened to it, and so I had to send it back again. It lasted primo for about 3 years after that, but I had bought it used, and anyway, but I used to spend a lot of time. I'd go down to Tijuana, or not for Tijuana. When I lived in San Diego, if you wanted any work done to have a couch recovered or something, and I'm not talking about a tuck and roll with newspaper stuffed in there, but some really good ones. You go down to Tijuana and they do it for great jobs for a lot less. And one of the things notice these dogs, a lot of dogs down there were not in good shape. And if you were a Tijuana dog and you had something happen to you, you probably weren't going to a vet. So it was like, some of my watches are like Tijuana dogs. They need to go to service, and I haven't done it yet. So I've got to do that with certain watches, I think. They won't have to if I keep them going through sort of rotated winding on them all. Lately, I've been reading about pocket watches and American makers. There's a wonderful silent film on YouTube about Elgin Factory and how they made their watches. Oh, that would be interesting, Smoko. I'll tell you, I had a book that Dominic gave me on Waltham watches. That was another one. It's very good about American watches. I think a lot of the brands that are now in Europe, Longines, Hamilton, Elgin, all of these were American originally, Bulova, but now I think they're all made overseas somewhere. Some of them went to Switzerland, and other ones went to God knows where. Just the brand name did. I recently received a Dornbluth Unsunda Quintus. I think it's similar in appearance to pocket watches. Yeah, some of, this is the, which one is it? A lot of them are. One of my favorite watches is Restaurant Constantin American 1921, I think. That thing is very much of a pocket watch shape. So, and more obviously, my Beauvais 1930. Um, the pocket watches, I think the thing with pocket watches, they went from when pocket watches went to wristwatches, and wristwatches were like became super popular. um, they thought, well, if we're making a wristwatch, we should make the dial smaller. I was like, some of the older dials, like when I had my first Calatrava, it was like I think 31 millimeters or something. And anyway, on that. Yeah, Dornbluth, und Sunda. They came out their story of uh, how they made watches before the reunification of Germany is a really interesting story. And then how they started with ETAs, and then they went into their own movement. The Elgin video on YouTube is called The House of Wonders. Okay, thank you. Ooh, 1931. That does sound like fun. Well, look, guys, I'm sorry about I don't know what's going on with the internet today, but it's limping along. And that's why we jammed up when we had more than a few people. So anyway, thank you all for coming by. And till next time, I hope we have better bandwidth. Take care.